We're talking to Colonel Don de Grand Prix, and worked at many different levels of the U.S. military and has put out some really important information. 2 years ago, he put out a report in a meeting, in a 72-hour deliberation. A group of military and civilian U.S. pilots under the chairmanship of Colonel Don de Grand, after deliberating nonstop for 72 hours, has concluded that the flight crews of the 4 passenger airliners involved in the September 11th tragedy had no control over the aircraft, and they get into how the military-industrial complex clearly, that is, elements of it, were in control of this. Colonel, we're going to go to some calls here in a few minutes after you've covered some other issues with us. But to understand this, my question of what percentage of the officers, period, in the military do you think have finally woken up to the true magnitude of what's going on?
Well, I'm in personal contact, at least on a weekly basis, with the Joint Chiefs and other select people. My computation is that 70% of us are with us. That's the higher-ranking military, field-grade officers, etc., and even the first 3 graders of the enlisted. 70% are with us.
Well, they've had questionnaires, a decade ago. Will you fire on U.S. citizens under UN control if the president says so? And 74% say no to that. So, but how are the globalists getting away with this?
Sheriff Promptry, it's one big bluff, and we can thank many of the neocons who are now in power in the Defense Department particularly. They get away with it because they try it out and see if anybody will salute the flag, and that's the way it goes.
So basically they wrap their un-American agenda in the flag, and the general public buys it, so the military has to sit there and take it.
They do, yes, and I think those days are coming to an end. The military ain't going to take it any longer.
Well, I mean, how did the military ever get convinced to use depleted uranium in areas where there's going to be troops?
To put what, Alex?
Well, I mean, the military gets treated like dog meat. You've got the depleted uranium, Colonel, where they spray depleted uranium everywhere, and then the troops breathe it at 1,900 times safe levels. How can the Pentagon put up with that? Well,
the DU rounds are overplayed, first of all. They aren't that potent. And secondarily, we must consider that weapons of mass destruction have already been used by some of the opposition in the period February of 1991. Weapons of mass destruction, including low-yield nuclear weapons.
Okay, can you break that down for us?
Well, I break it down in the time frame that we had satellite images of rounds or missiles being fired from the Negev desert toward Baghdad, and that's 600 miles distance, and 6 or 8 of the rounds came in. That was February of 1991.
Are you saying the Israelis use miniaturized nuclear weapons?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm saying in plain English.
Well, I remember, and I know they brag they have a lot of really sophisticated miniaturized nuclear weapons, the little mini frogs or whatever. But I know there were these giant mushroom clouds on the news, and they'd say, "Oh, that's not a nuke. That's just a weapons depot." But you're saying it's common knowledge in the Pentagon that Israel was firing nuclear weapons at
that is
Iraq?
Correct.
Oh,
that
so that's where
correct.
all this high level of radiation is emanating from, you're saying?
That is correct. And I have verification of that. I think it's in Book 2, and I think it'll stand up in most scrutiny.
Well, I know your work on September 11th certainly has. Do you think the globalists are going to have the will to carry out another massive attack here in the U.S. to try to get control back over the population and get their agenda back on track? Or do you think they've computed, as you said, that will blow up in their face because so many people now know who the real terrorists are?
Well, that's a two-pronged question, Alex. I think it deserves a studied answer. The only thing I can say is I'm not sure of how it'll turn out, but it's very dangerous.
Well, I don't. From watching the globalist, I think they had a plan. They're still following a plan, but I think they're shook up. I think from the evidence, in fact, I know from the evidence, a lot of things they planned haven't gone according to schedule, and so they don't know what to do right now.
This is correct. I think it's personified in the persona of the Deputy Secretary of Defense, Paul Wolfowitz. They almost got him in Baghdad when they fired the salvo one night of weaponry, and they scared Paul Wolfowitz off. He's ready to resign or
do you think
get
that
the hell out.
Do you think that was U.S. forces doing that?
I believe it. It was very well planned again, and
only U.S. forces would know that he would be there, yeah.
That is correct. And the precision of those weapons that came into the hotel, there were 11 rounds in all, and I can speak from authenticity that they scared the hell out of Paul Wolfowitz, and probably C. Paul Brenner, or whatever his name is, Bremer.
Why does the Pentagon, elements of the Pentagon, hate Wolfowitz?
Wolfowitz has been in this game since 1974. I was still on active duty when I met him in 1974, and he was coming on strong even then. And along with him, Richard Pearl and a couple of the others who are now known as New Conservatives.
Now, Pearl had the nickname as the Crazy and the Prince of Darkness, correct?
That is correct.
Why was he known as the Prince of Darkness?
I can't answer that directly. He was a snake to begin with, but nothing was ever straightforward as far as Richard Pearl was concerned. I introduced Book 3 to a quote stating that Richard Pearl is a madman, and it goes on from there.
Well, he is a madman. He was at a press dinner last year, and again, giggling and laughing about how we're going to have World War III, we're going to nuke everyone, ha, ha, ha. And then he goes, isn't that impressive, and like sort of grabbing on some women. I mean, he's a complete lunatic.
That is correct. Richard Pearl's days are numbered. I don't know if he realizes it, but so many of these so-called neocons, you'll notice now that they are very quiet indeed. They're not really surfacing anymore, including Dick Cheney.
Yeah, why has Dick Cheney been literally hiding under a bunker?
He's been hiding under a bunker most of the time since September 11th.
And by the way, it has come out that he took control of NORAD and was saying something in the U.S. Ultra secret bunkers that he was on loudspeakers ordering people to follow his orders. He had to physically take control of something. From my sources, it was the fact that they were going to go ahead and shoot the aircraft down. That's what I've got from lawyers who represent military officers. We know he was in control, though, even during the hijackings, the supposed hijackings. What do you know about that?
Well, not too much, really. I can't speak to that because it's hypothetical. And what I try to stick to are cold, hard facts.
Well, I mean, Colonel, we know he did take control of the bunkers.
Yeah.
We just don't know what he said, according to ABC News, but according to my sources, who've been very accurate, he was ordering the stand down.
Yes, I can believe it, but again, it's supposition, and I still haven't been able to figure out what makes Dick Cheney tick.
Well, then why is he hiding in a bunker? Why is he at the Naval Observatory in a bunker most of the time?
I think that that's what he considers to be the safest place at the moment. He's basically a coward, and this too will come out. I feel that Dick Cheney and Paul Wolfowitz, both of them, their days are numbered.
Okay, so politically, more and more corruption coming out, more and more of their criminal activities coming out, serious issues.